Good afternoon and welcome to the February 2026 edition of GRIDtalk hosted by MethodGrid. My name is Rachel. I'm the Strategic Account Manager for MethodGrid and I will be your host today. So today we are talking about Pace Digital 2 years on. Now, I can see some new faces in the crowd. So just before we get going, a little bit of housekeeping for you. So first of all, what is GRIDtalk? So GRIDtalk is a webinar series that we produce to basically share best practice, share research that is going on, and also give you an insight into what clients are up to, the amazing projects that we do alongside of our clients, and basically just something to give back to our community. So if you haven't seen any of the GRIDtalk episodes before, please feel free to pop over to either our website, methodgrid.com, or our YouTube channel, where you can find the whole backlog of all of the previous episodes talking about things like innovation in AI, other clients we've had as guests, all sorts of different projects that we have completed with our clients. And of course, today is one of those. So just before we get into that, you'll note down in the bottom right of your screen, there is a little chat box there. So please feel free to chat with other attendees. If you're having any technical issues or have any questions about the platform itself, our moderator, Tom, is on hand. Please feel free to pop any questions or comments in there for him. We do have a Q&A at the end of this session. So please, if you have any questions specific to the content, pop over to the questions button, which is right next to the chat button in the bottom right there, and pop your questions in there. Please feel free to pop questions in there as we go through, and then we'll have a look at them at the end of the session. Now, the only reason I say to pop them in the questions one specifically is just so they don't get lost in the general chit chat in the chat box. So without further ado, today I am joined by the wonderful Emma Smith, who is a project manager for change with Network Rail, but also the owner of Pace Digital. Welcome, Emma.
Thank you, Rachel.
How are you?
I'm very well. I'm eager to be able to talk to everybody on the GRIDtalk about what we've been up to. So excited to have this opportunity. So thanks for inviting me along.
It's absolutely a pleasure to have you. So what we're going to run through today is the origin of Pace Digital, how it came about, what was the need, the impact that Pace Digital has had over the last couple of years, and where we're going next, because of course it doesn't stop there. So for those of you that are new to Pace or new to MethodGrid, we're going to get into a little bit of the background of Pace. So Emma, Pace Digital wasn't the genesis of Pace, as it were. It was actually around for a couple of years before that. Is that right?
That's correct, Rachel. So Pace began its life as our Network Rail project delivery framework and governance back in 2021. And back at that time, the content and provision was all managed through an Excel spreadsheet that all of our project community used to manage their PACE projects. Before that, we had GRIP. Some of you, if you're part of the rail industry, will have heard about GRIP as our governance, but PACE came about at the end of COVID through Project Speed initiative, which required the rail industry to look at how we could make project management more efficient in time and cost, to bring passengers back into the rail industry after lockdown and COVID, and to bring the rail industry back to life, as it were. We needed to look at where we could save money on our enhancements and our renewals projects, and make managing the railway and travelling on the railway much more of a better experience, and look at how we could spend taxpayers' money more effectively.
Well, that sounds like a huge undertaking. So PACE obviously came to fruition. Then there were some challenges around the original format of PACE. As you say, it was in a spreadsheet to start with. So I imagine what you were coming across is a lot of people downloading the spreadsheet and therefore having a static old version of the information. How did you manage that sort of complexity? Was there challenges around updates, things like that?
There were lots of different challenges. The first one, it being an Excel spreadsheet full of macros and formulas that break all the time. Our community back in 2021, in our PACE community, was around about 2,000 users throughout the year accessing that spreadsheet. Quite rightly, you said downloading it to their desktop for the rest of their career. And the spreadsheet, the index provided all of the current content and governance for managing the projects. So there was a massive risk of people using out-of-date, non-compliant information and spreadsheets. And also that Excel was very limited in what kind of content we could give them. So basically we gave them a table of what the project's documentation deliverables were, who was responsible for them, and links out to where they could find those templates, which met its purpose for many years. But to make sure that everybody was singing from the same hymn sheet, as it were, we wanted to create one version of the truth, to try and encourage people not to save templates in the index to their desktop. We wanted to be able to look at where can we streamline templates and content, where can we easily manage all of that in one place without loads of different SharePoint sites. As most people are aware, the railway is a devolved organisational structure. We have 5 regions, each doing things differently, each managing their projects to the way that suits their operational models. And so we needed to make sure there was content that was available to guide all of those different scenarios. And yeah, the only way we could do that was look at digitalizing the content and making the product index, as we call it, more efficient.
You mentioned the devolved regions there, but also there was a consideration when we started talking about PACE Digital around the supply chain as well. So PACE isn't something that is just purely used within Network Rail, is it? It's actually for the wider industry. You mentioned lots of potentially disparate SharePoint sites. Was there a challenge around the supply chain getting access to resources?
That was a big risk and concern we had. You're correct there, Rachel, that with the growing base of the supply chain doing more and more work with Network Rail and our projects, our SharePoint provision was hard to manage for external access. And you'll see later on in the slides, the user base in our community has grown and grown and grown. And that's not particularly from internal community users, but from our supply chain. So we needed to look at how can our partners in our supply chain gain access to the information they need in a easy way, and in a way that was provided access and media in different ways to allow them to do their job, basically.
Yeah. So, I mean, a complete challenge. Most software providers, spreadsheets, whether they are on a DMS, are gated. That's generally, we all know, you use a username and password, you use SSO, everything needs a way to access it, generally speaking. So as you can see on this slide, there was a recognition that a new solution was needed, and there was a bit of investment needed involved in doing so. So when you first approached MethodGrid, it was a case of just throwing out the pain points that you were experiencing and then saying, go and fix it, essentially. Like that was the conversation that I remember we had with Mike Wright 2 years ago now, which is unbelievable that it's been 2 years, but that was essentially how it was approached to start with, right?
Exactly. We knew what the issues were. We knew the wish list that we had in our requirements, and we didn't understand, because we weren't the technical side, what could be achieved, and you guys and your team had that vision and that sense. So the ideal scenario was that we would present you our what we would like, and what pain points we needed to mitigate, and to let you lead us into a solution that we've got now,
which is our public read-only mode of MethoGrid. So of course, as I mentioned, we as a software firm are exactly the same as most, in the sense that you do need to access it in some way, username and password, two-factor authentication, single sign-on, that sort of thing. And that is the standard model for software. And so we had to kind of figure out a way to put that aside and make it completely open, so that, as you say, the supply chain could access it along with all of Network Rail. So we basically came about with a brand new feature, a brand new way to access information, and that is the read-only open methodology that is accessible now, which we have then turned into Pace Digital. What functionality, what sort of advantages do you feel that has brought to you?
It's opened up Pace to a much wider community, and not necessarily just the rail industry, supply chain and our partners, but other industries contact us, loving what's been built, asking us to show them around. It's and that opens the door for sharing best practice across industry, which is great. It's always really good. The read-only access means that we're confident that our build, our playbook isn't being messed with. One of the main criteria was it would become the one version of the truth for delivering Pace projects. It needed to have that reputation that the content on there is always the most up-to-date and compliant content that we have. So it gives us that assurance, which we didn't have before. But also it's kind of like as well opened up the avenues for other playbooks to be built. The whole philosophy that Mike had at the time, and that we support, is that there's nothing confidential available on the sites. It's all content that should be shared with anyone that would like to look through it, and maybe if they end up adopting that as best practice, that's great for not just Network Rail and Pace projects, but for industry. The fact that it's read only means that anybody could be sent that link, and they can access it with a click of a button, which is great. Then no need to set up an account or download software to be able to access it. But yet we're still reassured with the fact that it's got its cybersecurity certificates, and we worked heavily together for going through Cabinet Office appraisal, so that as a public site, it would be secure and robust. And so again, that was a new thing that we had to go through for Network Rail, let alone you guys. So yeah, there's a few things there that it's opened the doors and opened our eyes to. So yeah, it's been a journey.
It definitely has been a journey. You mentioned going through the Cabinet Office approval. Now, a big part of that was for accessibility, because it is publicly facing. We did need to make sure that it meets those accessibility requirements. But you also mentioned the constraints that you had when you were using spreadsheets, etc. So has this opened up a broader media allowance for you? Do you have different types of content available within your playbook now?
We do. We've I think we've used pretty much the full range as much as is available, but we've always been very aware that not only do people change role quickly within our kind of industry in terms of project managers, sponsors that need to access the information, and therefore we're always finding that there are new people that needs access to learn the content, but also that we understand people digest information in different ways. And so it's been absolutely crucial for us to look at ways that we can use the different media types available on the platform. We've got videos created for all of our elements, our deliverables. We've got text available, imaging, with links out to other content and media as well. So that was never achievable in Excel. And we get a lot of feedback saying that it's great to have a video rather than have to read through a manual, or it's great to be able to just click on a link and you've got a bit more detail somewhere else. And also the fact that the platform allows us to link across different playbooks is great. People don't have to go searching for information. It's all readily available. So yeah, like I say, our Excel provision, it seems archaic now, like a lifetime ago, but yeah, and the more as we've gone through the past couple of years, the more we've been able to understand how different media is successful. So, people often ask for links or copies of videos and stuff like that. We could say, well, look, it's just here, anyone can access it. So yeah, it was heavily part of the Cabinet Office approval to use the site, making sure that the content is accessible for anyone's types of needs. So on some of the videos we've got British Sign Language interpretation added. We've got subtitles added. We've formatted the grid even in certain colours that were approved, that had to be approved by like Cabinet Office, so that we weren't using colours that people with colour vision issues would be affected by. All of our images that we've got, we've learned that we've had to put image descriptions on the images, so like alternative text. So that's all new to us, and I think we've done it successfully. So yeah, it's kind of brought the content up to scratch with where we need to be as any organisation with digital content.
It sounds like a huge amount of work, but how has the platform, from your perspective personally, helped you in terms of actually adding new content, keeping content up to date? Have you found a real uptick in efficiency for you and your team?
For me, personally, yes. So it's just me. I don't have a team anymore. So my responsibility is to maintain all of the content. I don't own all of the content. We have various different departments around Network Rail that are the subject matter experts or own the company standard in relation to certain topics. So I work with them, and being able to have a digitalized content provision makes it much more easier and smoother to update things, get things reviewed, making sure that back in Excel days, I'd spend a lot of time making sure links still work to SharePoint sites, or SharePoint sites hadn't suddenly become restricted access. All those kinds of things took up a lot of time throughout the year. I don't need to worry about that anymore. We're able to upload documents, use links that we know work, we've built governance around doing that as an annual activity with the subject matter owners. And so for me, it's so much easier to update the documentation content on the platform than have to go and update a Word document, get it PDF'd, get it approved, get it sent out and published and linked. And yeah, for me, it saves a lot of time.
Yeah, that's amazing. And of course, the other benefit is that your changes are instantaneous, should you wish them to be. You don't have to send out a load of comms, or, you know, the public read only is just updated as you update it, which is also fantastic. Also, with Paste Digital, it has been built in a way that should any of the regions or the supply chain wish to take on the fully functional version of that it's quite customizable. There are things in place to help them in terms of, you know, project complexity ratings, where things sit in the life cycle. All of that has been built in so that should they take on a license and, you know, want to start actually actively managing their projects within MethodGrid, that's all set up for them as well, right?
It is. It's all ready to go. And that was one of the ambitions that we had when we approached your team to build this. Is that we wanted to be able to have that, not like flick a switch, because obviously there's a bit more technicality to that in terms of licensing and etc. But for projects and the regions and supply chain, say, you know, this would benefit us, this would save time and make it more effective and efficient to use the platform in a full functional way. So when people going and have a look at the playbook, they'll see that there's, you know, certain functionality for end phase reviews and things like that that are all built ready. So they are in read-only aspects at the moment, but if you understand how a MethodGrid playbook works, then you can understand the benefits of managing pace in a fully functional way with your project teams. And, you know, we've got webinars available for people to understand a bit more in detail how that would work.
Amazing. So somehow, it's 2 years on since the launch of Paste Digital, which feels just incredible. So let's talk a little bit about the impact that the launch of Paste Digital has had, not only within Network Rail, as we said, but within the wider industry.
There's been many massive impacts and benefits. So the charts there show our user base, our community that are accessing and navigating around the playbook has grown from, so go live was January the 11th, 2024. And we were just under 5,000 people accessing at that go live stage. And before that, when it was an Excel spreadsheet, it was about 2,000 people each month in the community downloading the spreadsheet. You know, 2 years later, and you can see there we're 35,000 plus at the moment. Actually, for February, I had a sneaky peek for February, which is phenomenal change in 2 years. That community has really grasped accessing the PACE playbook. You know, we're able to track a lot of data from the read-only provision, which benefits me. So there's an example there of I can see which content isn't accessed very much. So I can question, should it be? Is it important? And you know, the example we're showing there, we've got 2 red project deliverables there, red legislative or mandated from legislation as a process. And so we could go along and question, you know, why are they never looked at, or why wasn't this month, you know, project teams accessing certain things? I've never been able to do that before, not with an Excel spreadsheet, so that's great. You know, the user base we use the playbook to put our comms out as well, so that saved me a bit of time to issue comms, so people can go straight to that and know exactly what's current, what's changed, and feedback from that is that, you know, everyone knows exactly where to go to find the information that they need. So the biggest benefit, and you'd hope that shows that in that figure of such a massive ramp up of people using or the hits around the system, is that people are finding what they need. So yeah, it's been a phenomenal change over the 2 years. So it's not just the efficiency in me providing and maintaining the content, but it's seeing that the community's grown. You know, that the supply chain give feedback all the time, which is great, and the regions all like use the platform to download their templates, which is awesome.
In terms of since launch, have you had much general feedback from the regions, from the supply chain, that you have then been able to put back into Pace Digital? And how have you found that process since digitalizing everything?
So I get feedback weekly from the project community, no matter if that's supply chain or internal, to either question some of the content and to understand it a bit more, which enables me to maybe tweak how things are worded. So that's one thing. In terms of the community out there, so we've mentioned regions are devolved, and sometimes they have regional versions of processes. So even though they have to comply with the national process, they can work to that process in a regional way, and that brings back best practice. So we have examples of the regions come back saying, well, actually, this template we've been, you know, developing. Can you put that, you know, onto the Pace index for everybody to use? See, occasionally mistakes like get highlighted that come in that we miss because it's so much content. One of the hardest things I think that we found back in the day when we were building it is getting people to read through that content and tell us, is it correct? Is there spelling mistakes, all that kind of thing. So 2 years later, every now, like once in a while, someone will say, oh, that's spelt wrong. I'm like, all right, okay. So yeah, but people are going to use the content, so I'm happy with that. So yeah, it's I've forgotten your question now.
Just talking about feedback. So I was going to add to the question, actually. So in relation to feedback and, you know, lessons learned, sharing best practice, as you say, do you feel like that process has increased? Do you feel like you're getting more tangible feedback from people now that the content is easier to absorb, easier to ingest, that sort of thing?
I think so. Yeah. I think it's become more visible for people to know that this is a place they go and they can ask questions. Like when, you know, you mentioned people saving an Excel spreadsheet to their desktop, and you know, they would never come and ask questions about it if they found something wrong or didn't, or wanted the template to provide something slightly different. They would do that on their copy of it and would never know about it until the project's closed out and they've been audited or whatever, and something's come up to say that's not a compliant template. But now, because people have to evidence through their phase reviews for Pace what templates they've used and the links to them for their in-flight documentation, that's improved in terms of assurance. That's improved the world we work in. The feedback from, you know, the supply chain is that they've got access to Network Rail templates, full stop. You know, eyebrows raised that's been a first for a long time. So and they don't have to go through their Network Rail sponsor or project manager, wait for them to be sent the template. They can go straight there and work on it as soon as they're contracted and instructed to do some activity. So feedback has been really positive, that it's made going through the PACE life cycle more efficient in terms of knowing where to go, how to access things. On each of the elements, we've got we've listed who is a go-to person for advice. So that's good. And by having that, we're constantly looking at how can we make the information more efficient, more understandable. And we'll talk a bit, I guess, about AI in a bit, but having a digital platform allows things to be updated or shared so much more quickly than just using files.
Yeah, great. Just that sentence, the fact that the supply chain has instant access to templates, which was not always the case before.
Yeah.
Just that is incredible, really, isn't it? That's a huge change for the industry, which is great. Speaking of the supply chain, these are just a handful of the companies that we've seen already accessing PACE Digital, which is fantastic. And I know Octavius, for example, are doing a bit of work with our colleagues in the southern region, building out, as we mentioned, a fully functional version of PACE Digital, which basically brings all of that project management to life. So you have tasks that you can check off, you can build schedules in there, but it also gives you the flexibility to add in additional. As you mentioned, the regions do have to follow the national process, but in their own way, right?
Yeah, and that's recognizing, there are so many different types of projects for enhancements and renewing the railway in terms of complexity and scope. So where the governance and framework is available to all, we recognize it isn't a one size fits all approach. Different operating models, different project size teams and competencies and capabilities. We have to have content that suits all of those different scenarios, those different experience levels, with all of the companies there on the screen, all of those teams will understand that PACE is there for capital delivery projects, no matter who's delivering them. However, we recognise that regions and companies, have to have sometimes a different way of managing a process. Sometimes they might have a better way, and it's all about, by sharing that content and that situation, it allows us to learn from each other, and at the end of the day, we all want what's best for managing projects. We all want to save money, of course we do, and by having a platform that is open to whoever needs access to it, whether they're internal or external, and that they can use it in a flexible way, that that's the way to go. That's what will open the doors for efficiencies to be made.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it really is a real testament to yourselves at Network Rail around the ambition to share best practice rather than gatekeeping. Really, PACE Digital shows that in reality. You have built something that has really opened up all of your resources to the industry. And I think, as I say, it's a real testament to yourself and Network Rail as a whole, that you do just want things to be better. You want everyone to save money, and also taking learnings from the supply chain, from the regions, as you mentioned there. If they can do it better, we'll take it on board, which is, I just think it's fantastic. It's really a true credit to you. So tell us a little bit about this, Em.
Okay, so as I mentioned, like digitalizing PACE framework has allowed us then, once that was done, to start looking at supporting content, supporting playbooks. So in October last year, we launched a few new playbooks, one of which was a project manager handbook. So this is all the content where PACE product index playbook offers the what projects need to do, who needs to do it in terms of the role, when in the life cycle that deliverable needs to be done, and how they do it, the process. The index doesn't provide the behavioural side of it. The why do we do these things that we do?
Right.
So we wanted to create a handbook to say what project managers need to think about in terms of the why do we do these things? Why should I do these things? What happens if I don't do these things? And also we've got a sponsors version as well, which is a bit more of a technical build like the index rather than behavioural. And so yeah, so this is just an example of where we've completed a build and had a year to go through one playbook, and that's allowed us to build other content that is then all linked through the other playbooks. And that's a great thing that the Method Grid platform is useful for. It's, a click of a button and you've opened up a handbook and gone to the right page that you need to look at, or gone to the sponsors portal to look at some different process that isn't part of PACE but is part of a sponsor's responsibility. And yeah, I don't know any other platform that makes it so easy to do that. And so yeah, so since October the handbook's been live. Our hits per month, as it were, is quite fair and good. We've been promoting it as much as we can, and like I say, it's linked all through each part of the index as well. So yeah, so that's the kind of things that we're working on now, is what other content that supports our core process can we digitalize and bring onto the platform.
Yeah, fantastic. And we love to hear it, of course. Just to note to the audience, we will send this pack out to you. I appreciate the text there is not really legible, but it's more for the visuals rather than reading through it as it's on the screen. So don't worry, we will share it with you. So you mentioned other playbooks and connecting playbooks. So yeah. You have actually done an awful lot of work. And again, all leaning into, sharing best practice, making things easier for the industry. Talk us through a little bit about each of these and why you came about building them.
Okay, so obviously the first one there is the index, that was our core build, and next came along the top middle one. So all of our PACE framework and governance is a core process in Network Rail. We have 16 core processes across the company that cover many things from financial processes to health and safety management systems, etc., etc. And they're all listed in the company standards library, which is a library full of PDF documents, basically PDF files, hard to navigate, and technology-wise, PDFs are hard to read using screen readers. So we wanted to kind of build a little kind of playbook which acts as our shopfront window, as it were, to our standards. So again, each standard that is PACE or capital delivery projects have a relationship with there, have a little video, content that's described in different ways to help the users understand a little bit more about the standard before they then go through to the actual Network Rail standards library. Digital FAQ, so questions that come into me, they're kind of categorized there. That's like always a work in progress with more and more questions coming in. Our digital A to Z glossary, so quite proud of that, where we've kind of, as we were building content for PACE, all of the documentation and standards have just a little table at the start or the end to say, oh, there's this acronym and here's just a sentence of what that acronym means. To me, that doesn't help anybody. So I've built a to Z glossary that maybe has a video, maybe has an image, has links out to more detailed information, but each acronym has a couple of paragraphs of, well, what is this and why is it important? What does it relate to, kind of situation. So that's been live since July last year. Investment sponsorship portal we've mentioned, again, for the sponsors to understand not just their PACE framework, but the investment life cycle that runs alongside the project delivery responsibilities, and the PM handbook there we've mentioned. So for managing PACE projects, we've got those 6 supporting playbooks.
Yeah, amazing. So not only has there been the impact on just getting the information out, but actually it has evolved so much that you have felt like actually we can help people even more by producing supporting playbooks. And as I say, you know, the work that has been involved in this is not to be sniffed at, but the content that is now available to the wider industry and others, as you say, is phenomenal. And I really think you should be very, very proud, Emma, of the work that has been done, definitely.
Thank you.
Speaking of which,
yeah.
so we collectively, Network Rail and Method Grid together, have been recognised for all the work that has gone into PACE Digital. As you can see here, we have been nominated across the last couple of years for a number of awards based on that project. And we did win the New Civil Engineer Award for Best Delivery of Business Change. Obviously, PACE Digital was a huge business change. So, I mean, I'm sure I speak for the both of us in, but I literally couldn't be prouder to see that list, to have won an award, to have that industry recognition. I mean, how does looking at that list make you feel?
It is awesome. And I mean, for me, being project manager, like, you know, the APM was like being nominated and going through for those awards was great. But, you know, and I think that's partly helped with the ramp up in people accessing and coming and having a little look. You've got all there listed, the big you know, industry players, as it were, and it just, you know, it goes to show the partnership, the work that we all did, your side as well as my side. It was a huge undertaking, and it was managed in a really great way. Even the project to do our initial build, you know, with the way we worked as a team, was really effective. And I think that shows in not only what we've ended up with as a build, but also with the nominations and the you know, the award list there. That it just shows that that's, you know, appreciated. So well done to you.
Well done to us. Honestly, I
Yeah.
think we've seen quite a few times throughout the build and since that it has just felt like one team, you know, that it's not Method Grid and GRIDtalk or Network Rail, that we were very close knit throughout the whole project. And yourself and I, we speak, I was going to say weekly, but probably multiple times a week. You know, we stay very close, and we're all collectively very, very proud of all of the work that has gone in. And it doesn't end there. As I say, we are still moving forward with new things with our partnership. So tell us a little bit about what we've got in progress in terms of potential new playbooks to start with.
Sure. So the High Street Working book. So PACE isn't the only project management framework that we use for capital investment delivery projects. So the success of the PACE Digital Index and the process and framework build led to the High Street Working team realizing that, you know, having content and a build for their process, it would be good as well. So that is built. It's out there. I think, I'm not sure if it's still under pilot at the moment, but so that is ready. Navigate, I'm not sure if we've got Vicky on the call, but Navigate is an awesome platform. I've had a sneaky peek look, and yes, Navigate's there for our contracts and procurement community in Northwest and Central. We've currently got our HR processes in terms of employee side of processes being built, and that initially will be a read-only build, but then later on in phase 2 and 3 will end up being a few playbooks, I think, some of which may be single sign-on. So I'm working with them to sort single sign-on out for the platform. And we've currently got Tara Walsh in the Rail Investment Centre of Excellence, who manages the Innovation Acceleration panel and process for the supply chain innovations, to have kind of like a process to bring their ideas in for review and funding. She's building a catalogue of the submissions that have come in, which is looking good. I've had a look at that. So again, that's using images, videos if available, and just some high level descriptions of what innovations are within that process currently, and what are available for projects to access. So yes, so plenty of work going on since I finished doing my work.
Never finished.
I know.
But definitely, I mean, just looking at these few, touching very different areas of the business, definitely not just that in RICO or in capital project delivery.
Yeah, and that was surprising, because when I've done my webinars and my briefings and rolling that out, Pace Digital and the other playbooks over the past 2 years, I've known that there's been the odd occasion, maybe HR representatives have joined their regional community call where I've been presenting, or contracts and procurement, which has a relationship obviously with the project management framework, but that their people have come across and seen what the art of building content like we have, and the art of the possibility is. So it's absolutely awesome that other processes are looking at how can we do the same thing, how can we become more efficient and effective, how can we get our content out to the wide community, especially if it involves external supply chain. So yes, so again, that's a big win for the platform and for us in Rail Investment Centre of Excellence, is that we've been able to showcase, as it were, what's possible, and by building, or other departments and functions building things, eventually, as we've mentioned, to be able to link playbooks together where appropriate, etc. That allows us to promote a platform that people are used to seeing, used to using and navigating, which is great.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. And leaning into that a little bit more, obviously we are very early days yet, but I'm sure it will be no surprise to anyone that is in the audience today that we are moving to Great British Railways, and with Method Grid supporting. So the idea is that, we will continue to be that platform for the single source of truth, but also you mentioned earlier around AI. So Method Grid is fully AI enabled for multiple different things, but content build is obviously supported by AI. There are also AI assistants within the platform. But what we are looking to do in terms of the changeover to GBR is help support you with the huge amount of admin that is going to be involved in terms of changing your templates over, changing all your branding, mentions of Network Rail within all of your content. So the ambition there for us, Em, is to look at how MethaGrid and AI especially can help with those things.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a daunting task already in my head. We know, that the work will need to be done. We don't know what needs to be done yet. But yeah, even just changing Network Rail to GBR is a massive task with all of the content that we've got, and doing that on the platform that's all in one place with AI. Fingers crossed, everybody, it is going to be easier than having to try and trawl through thousands of different Word files or Excel templates that are held on SharePoint sites all over the place. So we're already in a better position than what we were by being able to digitalize. But yeah, the AI sourced library function I already use to help with content and things on the platform. So hopefully we can figure it out. But yeah, changing anything changing from Light to GBR, pace is expected to continue being used. Standards will still be in place. So the fundamentals of what we've got stay the same, as far as we know. It's just the branding, the what we called and maybe who's got access to things. Maybe there's more community that will come aboard needing access, which will be awesome. So yeah, that's all to come.
It's going to be great. We're going to be supporting you every step of the way, and
Yeah.
it will be fantastic piece of work. I'm certain of it. So we have got 10 minutes left. Unbelievably, I could be talking about this all day long with you, Em. So we do have some questions in here. So let me just read these to you, Em, and
Okay.
if anyone has any further questions to ask during this section, please do pop them into the questions box, and I will run through them quickly now. So Sam asks, what's your key ask for continued adoption of Pace Digital by the wider rail supply chain and Network Rail's 5 regional entities? What does the future for Pace Digital look like in the context of the upcoming Great British Rail?
So as I mentioned, we believe Pace will continue to be our project management framework. So in terms of that respect, even though the operating models under GPR will change, so in terms of routes may get more devolution powers. There are 15 routes. We currently work with 5 regions. So in that aspect, it's a much bigger direct community that we'll be working with. So I see the main changes will be having access to more best practice and ideas coming in, and that's how Pace provision will be improved going forward. In terms of whether we can move to fully functional, that is my ambition still. I use the platform myself for my own projects, and it's absolutely awesome. So yeah, Sam, I hope that answers your question. But in theory, we've got Pace at a good place. We know it needs to be updated for GBR, for a wider pool of the community coming in. And what we'll do is we'll develop it from now feedback coming in from the community.
Amazing. So the next question here we have from Zagan is, which roles, i.e. DPE, PM, sponsor, etc., have benefited the most from Pace Digital? And do you have any real life examples of those?
Sure. So the project managers, program managers have, I feel, evident that they've benefited the most. The sponsors have got quite a tight community. They've got their new sponsorship portal, but the main feedback and questions come in from project management teams. They're the ones I work more closely with in terms of PACE workshops and briefing sessions and things like that. So for them, understanding the processes that the project go through, where sponsors maybe have a bit more in-depth understanding because their life cycle starts pre-PACE. So we have investment delivery framework that starts before PACE, and so having a provision where project managers can see exactly what the sponsor expects of them in terms of the RACI charts we provide, etc., on the platform. I think for that, for them, they're the ones that benefit the most. Secondly, the DPEs or equivalent engineers, who are new to being brought so much more closely to the PACE framework under the new relationship triangle that we have. Hope that they're benefiting loads from understanding the project manager's side of the world in terms of the content, the processes, the templates, the timings of things. So I think everyone, like the different roles, experience different benefits really. But primarily for me, it's the project manager that there's so much more guidance for them, content, and it's all available in one place.
Yeah, fantastic. So Justin asks, and we can probably answer this together, Em, but where do documents, deliverables get stored once they have been completed? Is it in MethodGrid or another environment like SharePoint? So do you want to take that in terms of a Network Rail perspective?
Yeah, so for Network Rail, because the platform is read-only at the moment, we're not fully functional. Our projects store their in-flight documentation that hasn't got signed off mostly on Team SharePoint sites, but the final approved versions go onto the Bentley systems, so AssetWise, ProjectWise, or equivalent. The 5 regions use different systems for that. So we're quite restricted. While it's a read-only platform, we use the current Network Rail systems that have been in place for forever, really.
So from a platform perspective, so other clients and those that are using it in its fully functional mode, there are a couple of options. So there is absolutely the possibility to upload documents into MethodGrid. However, 90% of our clients won't do that. They will link to documents. So we have direct integrations with all of the most common DMS, SharePoint, Google, Dropbox, all of those sorts of things. And we can also link into the likes of Bentley systems. Now that is linking generally to a container because it will be things like, drawings, those sorts of things that need to have all of the iterations in them. So we would tend to link to that container within Bentley systems. But yeah, generally speaking, it will be a link to a document that is the live working document that you access via MethodGrid rather than uploading a static document, because as you can imagine, that can go out of date quite quickly. So using the static files is an option, but is rarely used. So hopefully that answers your question. Sam has asked another question here. How has Pace Digital brought to life the value of the tripartite of roles within a typical PACE governed project? So the triangle, I think that you were talking about there, Ian.
Yeah, so yeah, the tripartite leadership group, which is mandated in PACE frameworks for those 3 roles to work more closely together for project management of their project and the deliverables that they need to do. So by giving the 3 roles access to exactly the same information, the one version of the truth is great for a start. It rules out any issues with misunderstanding of who's supposed to be doing what and when. with the read-only aspect of the playbook, we're not able to see the evidence of the relationships working together, as Rachel mentioned, with fully functional and suppliers. When you're able to communicate directly through the platform to progress documentation, to use it as a fully functional project management tool, you can, especially assurance side of things, you can see those relationships working. So maybe that's something in the future we'll get, but at the moment, we're confident that the three roles, because they have access to exactly the same information, that there's then no misunderstanding of who's responsible for which aspect of the project.
Yeah, great. Justin has also asked, has digitizing the life cycle made further automation, digitalization of activities easier, and any examples of this?
So I haven't personally got any examples of the deliverables that my department are responsible for, but it's something that I've wanted to do, and part of the reason for building what we've built is so that we can now look at where can we go next with digitalizing templates or whatever. But there are other parts of Network Rail that have digitalized some of the PACE deliverables that they own, such as environmental and sustainability. We have two documents available that are now, as of in about 10 days time, be available on a new digital platform that have been integrated with a whole host of other deliverables to do with environment and sustainability, in terms of carbon reduction, climate impact assessment, biodiversity assessments, all those things that have never sat on the PACE index. So that is allowing for us to start to digitalize PACE. Those owners of that content have been able to say, oh, actually, yeah, it's working. So let's look at the actual templates now. So that is on the to-do list for the next year or two, is to go for everything, say, how can we streamline, how can we digitalize as much as we can?
Perfect. So Rab has said, Emma mentioned that in being able to view usage visits, it is easier to understand what is being used. I would imagine, and Rab is a MethodGrid user as well, it has also enabled identifications of moribund processes. So I think there was a little bit on that side as well to show least hit. But did you want to give a little bit of more detail on that side of things?
Yeah, so because the data downloads that we can get from, even though it's only a read-only playbook, we're able to look at, every minute of the day, how many people are accessing everything from the elements of tiles through to who's clicking on what links, which files are being looked at. So from the project manager handbook slide that we showed you with that massive colorful kind of like swirl chart, you're able to produce information like that to say, right, well, what is the most accessed content? What seems to be like what people are after this month, kind of thing. An example would be, so in preparation for Christmas works for capital delivery projects, we tended to see every past 2 Decembers a massive influx of people going to look at their phase plans and their phase readiness reviews before moving into delivery. So it's things like that it gives great information, even though it's a read-only platform. It does help us to identify also, as I mentioned, what content isn't being used, and so we can question, isn't it being used because it's not relevant, or people maybe don't understand the content, etc. So it allows us to go away and talk to those projects and ask specific questions then on, why don't you think this particular deliverable part of the process isn't being read or accessed very often?
So I appreciate we have run over a little bit, but just to mention that my lovely client colleague, Owen Richards, has put a little note in the questions tab to say that East West Rail are currently implementing the fully functional version of MethodGrid and PACE. So if anyone had any questions and they wanted to chat to a client that is actually using the fully functional version, Owen has put his contact details on there very kindly. So thank you so much, Owen. Really appreciate that. Of course, you can access PACE read-only. It is publicly accessible. I'm sure Tom has popped the link in the chat box for you, but you can also find that on the MethodGrid website and in various places on Network Rail's sites. So we will have another grid talk coming up next month, so do keep your eye out for that. But thank you so much, Emma, for your time. Really appreciated as always. If anyone has any further questions or wants to chat to us about anything PACE or MethodGrid related, please feel free to get in touch. The best way to do that is to just click book a demo on our website, or you can get in touch via help@methodgrid.com. Lovely to see you all.